Hey, wait. Just wait a second. You used the World Cup. Morocco, right? Was Morocco made it to the semifinals
The
of
World Cup is an absolute travesty of a format.
All I'm saying is T1 might need to import some Moroccan players with how things are looking over there. Korea is finished.
What's up, world? There's been a shit ton of things going down in the world of League of Legends, as well as we crowned a champion for an international event over at MSI.
Yeah. Korean League has been going down for years now. But yeah, that's
oh my gosh. Yeah, this episode is going to be called "The Justification of IWillDominate's Love for LPL," as he's made the shift for years, and now it just shows up.
He has to bounce back from the suffering of 3 out of the top 4 teams at Worlds being Korean teams.
which is what Korean dick suckers end up saying nonstop. They're like, yeah, actually, it doesn't matter who wins. What matters is like how many teams make it out of the group stage. It's like, okay, well, you have no teams in finals now, so like, what does that matter?
I mean, Barrel's won 2 of the last 3 Worlds. Think about that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. He might just be the best support from Korea. Who knows? I mean, I'm not really impressed with the one that everyone was trying to sell me the entire fucking year. I'll tell you that. Like this Carrier guy, dude, he is the biggest fraud out of all the players that I was sold, because I bought into this shit. Like when I was looking at MSI, I was like, this is going to be a massive advantage for T1 is his ability to counterpick bot lane. And then when the shit hits the fan, we saw it in LCK finals, and I thought that was an aberration. I'm like, him going Braum blind and all these like just even matchups in bot lane, this is an aberration. This is not going to be what the standard is. He'll go back at MSI to playing things in order to dominate the bot lane and set up the bot guys, because that was their whole identity. And what does he do?
Bot dove instead. Can I offer you getting bot dove?
Rakan every game. Rakan, we pick losing bot lanes only. Fraud.
Right, we don't have a fraud alert.
I don't know if he's a fraud. Perhaps he's a
complete fraud.
Perhaps he's a coward.
And Chovy, look,
I love Dom. Here's what Dom does. He picks T1 to win MSI to hedge his bets, so that he can gloat regardless. He can gloat if T1 wins because he was right. And if T1 loses, then he can gloat because LPL won. Genius.
Yes. I literally tweeted out before the tournament. I tweeted out that this would be my strategy before the tournament.
Well, remember,
it's so easy to be me. It's so easy.
That prediction wasn't Dom. It was like Nega Dom, because it was how'd they misspell your name? I will dominate. No, I or whatever. Dominate. I will dominate.
They paid me for that tweet, and they didn't even.
Not
whatever. But I mean, it is true that I think that T1 should have won. I feel like T1 should win these tournaments, but like for some reason they just stopped playing like themselves. Like both Korean teams, if you took off nameplate, they played nothing
styles.
Like
it was fucking weird, man.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. Like, let's fucking jump into this shit. I don't give a fuck about anything else.
We're saving that. We gotta save the rage to bait people for later in the episode. We have different rage now. TSM announces that they're leaving the LCS, and as far as I can tell, guys, from poking around, they neither have sold their LCS team nor have purchased anything else. So it feels like the announcement timing is very weird. When I'm not sure they have a concrete plan in place.
Yeah, well, one of the major reasons was that this was something that they've been exploring for a little while, and they were being blocked by Riot. And then I guess given the certain circumstances of the LCS, they were given permission. And so this was like an announcement of them having permission to be able to do so.
I see.
That's, it's like an announcement of announcement. Well, TSM took it up a little bit there. I think it's kind of interesting that where they could end up. I imagine it's CB LOL. I imagine maybe LPL.
They said tier 1 region.
I know they said tier 1 regions, but there's only 3 other tier 1 regions.
Yeah, it would be LPL.
It could be LCK as well.
You think LCK? They have no footprint there.
Do they have a footprint in China?
Yeah, Peter Zhang is in China.
Oh, he's there to steal more money. He's there to steal more money from them. Oh, shit. Dude, that story about Peter Zhang showing them night clips for KO Duo was fucking wild.
Yeah, but I mean, it also shows how incompetent TSM is that they didn't even like verify the clips are of the player that they say that.
But that is from. I mean, that's actually fucking amazing.
Yeah, well, so TSM looking to leave, looking to sell. There are multiple other teams that are open for selling, but obviously aren't going to tweet about it quite yet. You know,
well, you would think that might decrease the value of your team if you let them know that this is something that you're planning on doing immediately, right? I do find that a little bit suspicious. And also, when I say LCK, honestly, I think that this announcement, so the negative is you might be able to be selling your LCS slot for less potentially. The positive might be that a bunch of people who want to sell their teams, of which there are some in Korea, by the way, might be reaching out to you to make a deal. So I do think that there could be a positive effect of this for advertising for potential LPL or LCK teams or even LEC teams that want to make an exit. I think the problem with LEC is that the slots have been selling for about double LCS, so you'd have to spend, a bunch more money to get an LEC slot.
Well, they have the FTX sponsorship that gives them 20 million a year.
They've got all that. Yeah, they've got all that money.
So they can use that money for it, I think.
I think it's more likely that they do a partnership arrangement in the LPL like we saw NIP do with V5. I think like some sort of brand / cost sharing, or conversely what SKT did with Comcast with T1, where they kind of buddy up within that makes it much more likely.
Partnered with Joe Marsh and never won a title again. Yeah, that was really cool. I like that.
I mean, that is the upside to T1 not winning anything.
What? I mean, there's so much upside. What do you mean the upside? It's like there's only upside when T1 loses. Like, it's good content. It's funny as fuck. Like, all the fans are super mad. Like, it's also just good for League in general because it keeps people more fucking humble about their teams. I mean, we've literally went through 2 spring splits in a row of everyone just sucking off T1 for the entire split, saying that they're the best team in the world by far. They have the 5 best players in LCK in their positions. And then they just lost the same way where they're like favorites. Like, in my mind, they're favorites to win the tournament. So I don't know. There's only positives when T1 loses. There's no negatives. It's actually perfect.
I think it's good for the game to at least have T1 make the finals just when it comes to viewership. And I do think that having Faker win another international title would probably be good for the excitement of the game. Them always losing, I think, will lose its luster after a time.
Well, them winning the best of 5 was exciting. Everyone's like, "Oh shit! They exercised their demons. Best of 5 in the books. They're going to be able to win everything." And then they lose another best of 5.
Well, I mean, what best of 5? Like the one versus Gen.G?
Yeah,
is that the one? I mean, okay.
That's what it felt like.
We'll get to that. So TSM. Any final thoughts, guys, on the TSM potential exit? They're cutting down to the minimum right now, it looks like, for LCS. Their LCS roster is very uninspiring. Bringing over Ruby. Is he one of your favorite players from Heretics? That's who you would have gotten, right, Dom?
Yeah, I would have brought Evie with him. Just have them fucking run the entire league. I mean, I don't know. I mean, TSM, it's really just not TSM anymore. When you look at the teams, I mean, they completely lost everything that TSM was about. They used to be the team that had insane names. They spent a lot on their rosters. They brought in top tier imports. They were always trying to win LCS and, be a force internationally. Even though it never happened, that was always the goal. But now you don't even believe that that's the goal anymore. You don't even think this team is like built to win at all. It's just built to exist within the LCS until they can make this move.
Yeah. I mean, they have Turtle and they have Hunter, so you got some like legacy names coming back.
What year is it? What year TSM is it?
I know. But with that said, I do think TSM leaving feels weird. It's not like, hey, they're selling and getting out, like Clutch or some other orgs, Optic. They're leaving to go somewhere else. What does that say about the LCS? Which transitions us to this next topic that has kind of came up over the yesterday after I put out my LCS, like, hey, Asset Day was super fun. Here's some funny shit that people said. LCS is in a week. Bam! The LCSPA drops a notice that they might be doing a walkout for the first week of the LCS. The vote will be happening this weekend. It'll be the first time in modern esports or in esports that a players union will be staging a walkout or a strike. I did a lot of reading up on strikes in the past and in traditional sports. And the thing that jumps out to me about all of this is that in traditional sports, when there's collective bargaining or there's a player strike, it's usually the players versus the team/league. Team and league are on one team. Here, it's the players, the owners, and Riot. It's like there's three things, and it should be two.
That's what makes unionization so difficult in this particular instance. And there have been many factors that have stopped the Players Association from becoming a union, partially a desire not to become a union, because they didn't want salary caps. And while they could continue to suck all the players could continue to suck all the VC up that they were humanly capable of, that was advantageous to them. Now they're in a different situation where they are suffering from potential real limits or an implied salary cap amongst the owners, who are probably not going to spend more or much more than the revenue share of $2 to $3 million that Riot gives them. So now I think they're hurting from the fact that a union might give them actual wage floors that are higher than they have right now, and that's probably a bummer for them. But they made this bed and they can sleep in it. Now, the other factor that makes unionization difficult, to your point, Dgon, is that in traditional sports, the teams own the league. So it's the team/league are one entity bargaining against the players' union. In this instance, Riot has to be involved in any kind of discussions with the union, which makes the situation much, much harder because, as we've discussed numerous times, there isn't an alignment of what the purpose of esports even is. The teams want it to be an entertainment product that is an independent business. The publishers, like Riot, want it to be a marketing tool for their skins. So how do you come to agreements within this? Because it would probably require some level of commitment and transparency about the successful efforts of esports marketing from Riot. And, they're never going to reveal that. So.
Yeah. One of the first examples I looked at, 1970 something baseball strike. You know what they fought over? They fought over the minimum wages going from like in 11,000 to 13,000. They fought over $2,000 per minimum wage, and that's not what these players are fighting for. And some of these asks are very big and just not going to happen. But pie in the sky
negotiating tactic. Like when the LCSPA makes the announcement and says like we want promotion relegation, they know they're not going to get that, but they have to put that out there so that they have something to like take off the table as part of a compromise.
Thoughts, Dom?
I just think it's weird that everyone pretends to care about Academy when no one cared about Academy. Like that's the weirdest thing to me is like they're trying to just get together and have this movement where it's like, yeah, look at what's happening with Academy. I mean, Academy was not worth shit because no one watched it. Like no one watched it. The teams didn't like build storylines. The teams didn't have, hype when you compare it to like LFL or LVP or like the regional league system in Europe. It's nothing close to that in NA, and the NA players were getting paid more. So like no one cared about it. The pro players that are going to pretend to watch, like they don't really care about it. Like you think that the top tier pro players actually give a fuck about Academy? Like, I don't know. It seems weird to me that everyone pretends to care about it because they're like sticking it to the man or whatever. But I just don't actually believe that it's.
Well, I also think that there's an opportunity here to build something that would create that same level of hype. I mean, they've already announced the crossover between like Academy and LLA and CBLOL and these kind of regional events. So maybe there's an opportunity to build something like that would be regionalized to the Americas, like we see with VCT Americas. I mean, I think this is just inevitably going to a space where LLA, CBLOL, and LCS all merge into one, like, LCS Americas, because that's what they did in Valorant, and it's been much more successful. So I think it's the best way to continue to keep the fan base up and to have those actual regional pride. I mean, I've been saying this for years. Like, it would be so much better for Immortals to be MIBR, which is a brand they also own, and field an all Brazilian roster for the sake of the fans, because MIBR is a huge Brazilian fan base, and it's a way to make certain teams much more interesting than they are currently.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's Riot could force it, right? They could always just come down and be like, yeah, let's just make it an America's league. But It's not good for CB Law, I'll tell you that right now. CB Law is doing just fine doing their own thing. Like, they don't want to fucking merge with NA, because also the CB Law teams will probably do worse competing with top NA teams than they would domestically, as we've seen in these. I mean, maybe they get better over time. Who knows?
I think they would get better.
Potentially. I just think that in general, like, CB Law doesn't need the LCS. I mean, have you seen the fucking stream numbers? Have you seen what Bayano was doing? Like, this guy was getting more than the official broadcast co-streaming the games. Like, their fucking league is hype enough on its own. So we'll see what Riot does. We'll see if Riot just strong arms them and just makes them merge.
Yeah, I had one more point. Oh, I very much enjoyed the transparency of Steve's video. Team Liquid Steve, CEO of Team Liquid, came out and talked about why these changes happened and why they decided to keep their academy team. One thing that stuck to me was, he said, we looked at across the history of our academy system, we've had 17% of our players make it up into LCS in an impactful way. Like, that's not even a whole person compared to a whole player compared to sorry humans, but a whole player for the investment that they've put in. And that, to me, strikes so much of why it was removed in the first place. You know, everyone's like, Dom's being mean and saying no one cares or whatever. Not only was the viewership not quite there, I think there was a lot of attempt and effort, but not quite there.
Viewership. Like, it was like like those matches that had like 1,700 viewers. Like, there was those matches on the path to pro, because they have two different streams, and I even like co-streamed one of them. The viewership just wasn't there. But it's not even that this integration is bad. It's that there was years of people not giving a fuck about academy, and then at some point, you know, no one's gonna care anymore. You know, like, they didn't build it up in the years where there actually would have been hype around the players. So I don't know. It's weird. I think that it's hard to justify paying players like as much as they were getting paid. I mean, there was contracts that I heard about that were like hundreds of thousands of dollars for academy players. There's no way that you could justify paying like $200,000 a year to $400,000 a year for an academy player when the viewership on the stream is getting like 1.7K. I mean, the only thing that it was good for was to farm buyouts. And if teams aren't going to be paying those types of buyouts, like, I don't know. I think it's actually better for the players. Obviously, in the short term, they would like to get paid more, but it's better for the good players to not be under these massive buyouts within organizations, so that they actually have the ability to move up into the tier 1 league without having this like looming multiple $100,000 to $500,000 buyout. I mean, look at some of the players that played in academy, how long it took them to get a shot in LCS, even though they were ready, just because their buyout was so high.
Well, I mean, Jack also said in his like AMA on the Cloud9 subreddit that he was offering his academy players from this year with no buyouts, and nobody was taking them. You know what I mean? And I think that's really indicative, where even if you don't have buyouts and nobody wants these academy players, it's not a successful system at actually developing players, because here are players who should be developed based on the year that they've had. And if we are to believe the hype around Cloud9's academy team and them saying that they were beating LCS teams in scrims, which does seem believable, then it's weird that nobody wants to take on any of these players.
Yeah. Again, a pretty complex issue that we've discussed a lot here. And I guess the next point here is, if the players decide to walk out, which will be that first week of the LCS, what does that do? Like, let's just real quick before we move on back onto the nuts and bolts of the game, and we'll go into MSI. What does a walkout do, Monty?
I mean, I'm not sure what it will accomplish. Like, I think some of the demands are reasonable if people believe that this is a good system for developing players. And I don't think anyone thinks that this is going to be profitable from a viewership perspective, right? So we have to ignore the viewership, because I hear Dom's point, but that's not really the argument that people are making. They're saying it is essential to continuing the North American talent pipeline. Now, I don't really see why some of these players can't go to Europe and compete on ERL teams and train over there. That doesn't seem outrageous to me. I come from 20 years of esports where people traditionally went to the regions where the game was being played. I mean, the number of foreigners who went to Korea to train StarCraft was basically all of all of the people, right? Were in Korea training at various different points in time. And if you're really passionate about it and you want a highly competitive environment, I think you can seek it out. And so in a way, it might make the ERLs more competitive and provide a better training ground. Certainly EU solo queue has a lot more players and is more challenging in and of itself. So I guess my argument would be, isn't there a way to use ERLs to farm potential up and coming North American players? And wouldn't that be better training in many ways for them? Like, isn't that just a better farm system? So like,
Yeah,
are we concerned really about?
So the argument that I saw people making against that is they're like, why would an ERL team want to import a player when there's enough talent in Europe already? This is the argument that the players are making themselves, is that there's no, like, ERL teams wouldn't take a chance on an NA player because they'd rather just develop somebody who's not going to be worth an import slot later on that they think is of comparable skill.
Maybe, but I don't think a lot of LEC teams don't have issues with being maxed out on imports as it is. So I'm not sure that's even a valid argument.
Yeah, I think it's more the direction that things are going, because now teams are importing more than they were previously.
Sure. I mean, there are some teams, but I still think there's plenty of room for the right talent.
Sure.
And
this is just the argument that people are making.
Sure.
Like, I've seen it made on Twitter. I think Dardoch made this, and Laura made this argument, but it's also like, those are the players that are like older players that, people view as, even if it's incorrect, they view these players as past their prime, which obviously
we sent over Cody,
Yeah, which is another player that was viewed as past his prime. So, I mean, I just think, I don't know. It's weird in general. Also, like, I don't even believe, like, this is how little I believe in North America. I feel like players would vote to have a walkout just so they didn't have to play.
No, I mean, they voted to cancel the spring split, but they did.
No, I mean, I think
voted to cancel the spring split during COVID.
I mean, from what my knowledge of players are, and the way that people, whenever it's like, oh, do you want to play an extra scrim game or do you want to end the session? Everyone always votes to end the session. I honestly believe that there's a lot of players that would just rather be like, oh, so wait, like, we can just walk out and then we don't have to play LCS. Perfect. Players would do that, in my opinion. That's how little faith I have in our players.
I wish I could argue with Dom, but when we have literal evidence that they voted to cancel an entire split of LCS. Now, it has to be noted, they didn't vote to not get paid during that time. They were just like, this COVID thing, too hard to play from home, and let's cancel the spring split. But they voted for that. They voted in favor of it. Obviously, they were told no because it was incredibly stupid. And there were certainly ways that people figured out how to deal with that situation. But also, to Dom's point, it would not surprise me either.
The player base is different. The situation is different. I think,
but the attitude remains the same.
No.
If you doesn't give a fuck. Like, the players don't care. They don't care as much as other players do. That's just the fact. And the results are there. I mean, you watch MSI and you can see that they just don't care the same way other players care. And then they get exposed. Like, it's like they try to they try to cram before an exam. That's what essentially I see. Where it's like, no, you just weren't doing what they were doing the entire time. And when you look at LCS, it's been the same thing forever, and it doesn't get any closer. It doesn't feel like an NA team can win an international ever. So it is what it is.
I'm trying to think. So to kind of the last time that we felt like NA could do something, or like that there was a shift being made for me, was like when Core JJ was riding the ship and the clear best support in the league and leading the way. I think he was setting the tone for everyone. Now I think he's, it's a little bit harder for him to do that because he's not having the results. He's not playing as well. But when was that? Was that
2019?
2019. Damn, that was a long time ago.
I mean, these teams, like, we've had one team get out of groups, which is like the Perk C9 in 2021. That was the last team that made it out of groups since 2018. Like, I mean, it's harder to make it out of groups now than it was back then, because now there's more Asian teams. It's pretty tough. It's pretty doomed. I mean, this is just what happens when people don't give a fuck. Like, too many NA players didn't give a fuck. And now, like, everything's going to shit. They're getting paid less. Like, Academy is dying. Like, everyone wants to fault everyone besides for the players. But I think the players are actually the most to blame. Like, where are the results? There's no fucking results. Like, why should they get paid? And they're paid more than everyone else. Like, you have rookies in China competing, grinding their fucking ass off for less. for less money, man. Like, I don't know. It is what it is.
I think there is fault with the players, but I don't think it's mainly the fault. I do think I think
it's mainly the fault of the players. Like,
you think it's mainly the fault of the players?
Yeah. There's no results. So people don't like the results drive everything. The better results you get, the more people want to fucking watch, the more people will invest into the region. Like, the more everything happens. Like, that's what drives everything. Like, they were getting overpaid. They're not doing the viewership numbers, so they're not even able to like make the league exciting, themselves. The results are not there internationally. So why are people watching LCS at this point? That's the question.
Well, I have to watch it because people want me to talk about it. I don't want to watch it. I wish I didn't have to watch, which is also why, as we watch, LCS slowly disappear under the waves, I'm not really sad because it's just going to be less watching for me of things I didn't want to watch. Anyway.
I'm sad about it because I feel like other players cared more. Like, maybe it's just like the rose tinted glasses or whatever, but I actually feel like back when people weren't getting paid shit and there was relegations and you were scared of losing your job and you didn't know what the fuck was going to happen. Like, if you do get relegated, like, is your whole life fucked? Are you like the stress that you were under? I feel like players just cared more back then. I think the stress of potentially being relegated was actually good for the health of the competition. Like, people just tried harder because it wasn't like, oh, well, whatever, it's like a bad split, whatever, like, we'll just, bad split happens, we'll get it together next split, we'll make some roster changes. Like, now you can tune out, you can zone out when you're in one of these bad teams, whereas before you'd lose your entire job. Also, you weren't getting paid that much anyway, so it wasn't like you could be like, oh, I could take a split off and come back. It's like, where the fuck is my money coming from? Like, how do I even make this a thing? That's a motivating factor, bro. When you don't know how your life is going to go, when you are literally like so stressed out to the point where you're like, damn, man, I don't like, is my whole life fucked if this doesn't work out? Like, I'm going to be years behind my college degree of where I should have been if I had progressed normally, like with my friend group growing up. I think that this actually made people care more.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I've said this many times over the years, but one of the reasons why not all, obviously, but many Korean pros are very motivated to play the game is that frequently Korean pros don't come from a lot of money. They don't come from a high socioeconomic status. The reason why they're playing games is, oftentimes their families are poor or they're performing very poorly in school. And so this is, most Korean parents aren't out there being like, yeah, I want my child to become a pro gamer. Like, it's not really a high status thing in Korea, right? It's kind of a last resort. And so a lot of these pro players are actually supporting their parents and their families on their pro player incomes. And so that adds an insane level of motivation, right? If you know that, you are actually the main breadwinner for your family in that scenario, it makes you play harder. It does.
I mean, there's a reason why I'm fucking waking up at 3 a.m. still. I've just instilled it in my life that I'm going to like have to like sacrifice something in order to get what I want out of this shit. Like, I think that it's something that's different now compared to back then, because back then Academy wasn't good enough. You couldn't just sit in Academy, have an $80,000 a year salary and just chill and be like, yeah, I'll just keep on playing Academy. This is good enough. Like, it wasn't that.
And people, I love this too. People are like, wow, it's so hard to live in Los Angeles on this $75,000. Guys, that's all gravy.
No,
they're not paying for housing. They're not paying for food. Let me tell you, the equivalent amount of money there is very significant, especially for the spots they are living in Los Angeles, where they get everything paid for. I mean, it's basically just fun money or like savings money at that point in time because all of your basic needs are accounted for.
Yeah. There's no stress that comes with it. So,
all right. So we've tackled this walkout and the status of the LCS from multiple different angles here. If you're wondering let us know in the comments because I'm kind of interested. Where do you think the fault lies? I think there's 3 parties. It could be the owners, it could be Riot itself, or it could be the players. And give some sort of a percentage share there. Let us know over on our YouTube channel, or if you're watching live right now in Twitch chat. I appreciate it. Okay, so after
also very quickly, we are going to do a 4 Horsemen immediately after this show on live on Twitch, which will mean you'll see it on YouTube soon as well, about the entire Academy system. So that is coming up right now, right after this. So keep your eyes open if you want a longer discussion.
Yeah, make sure to retweet to make the summon happen. All right. So with TSM and LCS now in the rearview mirror, let's take one more peek with those big brain glasses within the in the Galaxy Brain Club. There we go. Of the week. It's MSI's recap and what we thought of that second week and the event as a whole. All right, it happened just like we drew it up. JDG wins against BLG, who solidifies LPL as the #1 league in the world. It was just like everyone thought, except IWillDominate. Dom, we'll start with you there, man. This last week of MSI.
So I thought that there was going to be more of a clash of styles. When I looked at how the games were going to progress, I thought that T1 would have an advantage over JDG because JDG, they have some really sus, or domestically, they had a lot of really sus early games, and I thought that T1 would just be able to develop sizable enough leads early game where JDG would not be able to like come back consistently enough. Like maybe they'd be able to win games here and there, but T1 would end up winning out versus JDG. And I thought Gen.G stylistically counters T1 because Gen.G just side lanes and they don't take those early fights, and then they're just better at playing the map later on. And I thought that JDG would play better against Gen.G. So I thought there would be like kind of a triangle of like each team could beat every team. But I think the most interesting thing this tournament was to just see how Korean teams they completely abandon their styles, how they just don't actually believe that their styles are good when small things like happen. Like there's small things that will change and they'll be like, yeah, we just can't do what we've been doing the entire time. And I thought the mentality of the Korean teams were super weak throughout. Like I think the way that they competed was yeah, it was just sad. I mean,
I just don't know. I agree with you, Dom. Like, I just don't know what happened. Like, Gen.G didn't play like themselves. They walk in and they start like, you know, you and I were having a Discord conversation. First off, he messaged me on Discord. He's like, I'm going to be absolutely insufferable this week on Power Spike.
That was my opener. Like,
well,
that's how I opened.
Good morning to you too.
He started just sending me a bunch of clips about like vision control, and we had a little chat about this. But yeah, I mean, it was just so weird to watch Gen.G versus BLG, because so often they just don't get sucked into these objective team fights within the LCK, to Dom's point. And like, I'm watching them opt into like they'll take the first Drake and then the second Drake comes up. So BLG had 0 Drakes and BLG will have they'll have a mythic on Elk, and Pays is still waiting to get his mythic, like he's on like a noon quiver, and then they're just opting into these engagements for a meaningless second Drake when every other time in the LCK, they're fucking around in top lane. You know, they're getting Herald or they're pushing a top lane turret, right? They're split pushing. They don't opt into these kind of engagements. So that was incredibly strange. Also, why is Peanut, like I told Dom this too, but I woke up in the morning because I watch them mostly in VOD form, right? Unless we're doing one of the power spikes like immediately after the games, and I wake up at 4 a.m. But I woke up and it was game 3 of BLG versus Gen.G, and I just opened the stream and I see Peanut on Kindred and I'm like, well, this is fucking over. Like, why are they doing this? Like, I understand that they are trying to be meta, as it were, but they are doing things that don't make sense for their style. They are taking fights that they never would take domestically, and they are playing champions that leave me deeply confused about what they're doing. And then on top of that, you know, I thought it was a one-off when Chovy kind of regressed towards the end of Worlds last year. My God, that play in the 3rd game of the series, like his play, his teleporting in, that is just like teleport inting. Like, I just don't understand why Gen.G can't make the same decisions that they make domestically at international events.
I mean, it's really weird to see that they feel like every Drake needs to be contested because their whole strategy is to give up Drakes. But I mean, I was saying it on the last Power Spike. I was deeply concerned with the fact that Gen.G was trying to play carry junglers at this tournament. The fact that they were even entertaining the Nidalee, the Lys, the Kazakhs, like these types of champions. This is just not what they should be doing. We told them the 5 champions they need to be playing. They can play Poppy if it's up. They can play Vi, Wukong, Maokai, Sejuani. That's it. That's like your champion pool, man. You just make this work with whatever team comp you're playing in. The most carry jungler you get there is maybe a Wukong or a Divine Sunder or Poppy. Like that's the most I want to see out of Peanut. But I think the other thing that's really weird is the mentality of the team is to not put Chovy on any of the champions that he's good at. Like it was really crazy to see that game 3 that they didn't just first pick Ahri. I was sitting there, I'm like, Chovy's Ahri, that's like his best champion, right? He's the best player in the world on Ahri. And the fact that they were not willing to play Ahri into Annie when Yagao was playing that shit. Yagao's willing to play Ahri into Annie, but you're not willing to play Ahri into Yagao's Annie? It's Yagao, man. Like he's obviously underrated by people in general, but he's not insane, and he's definitely not insane at laning. And the mentality, I mean, you look at 3 games for Chovy. I understand if you think like Lissandra is good in the first game, you think Annie is good in the second game, but by game 3, you have to see how the series is going and be like, all right, we got to fucking give our star player, our best player, potentially the best player in the entire world, some agency to do what the fuck he does, which is get really strong and carry the fucking team fights. And they didn't do that. They just put him on Annie. That's everyone's dream. If you could pick for the other team, you would want to have Peanut on fucking Kindred and Chovy on Annie. If I could draft, if I was BLG and I could draft against my team, like, and I could draft for Gen.G, this is what I would give them.
I don't know. I think Annie does fit the mold of what Gen.G likes to do in terms of having the mid lane pressure. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be able to carry the fights in the same way that you could with an Ahri, right? I think why they did this was because game 2 was winnable. Like Gen.G should have won game 2. Peanut completely sent the final engage of that game because he was standing on a ward and then a pink ward, so he knew it was there, and then WE'd into Elk, who had flash up, didn't even have to use flash, by the way, and they just peeled the shit out of the team and then just won the game off of that team fight. Like, that was a winnable game from Gen.G. It was bad team fighting that cost them that game. So if I'm Gen.G, I'm not thinking that it's an Annie problem, I'm thinking that it's an execution problem. But also, this is something that we've seen repeatedly from Peanut in not only high pressure games, but games in general. Like we saw it from him when he like randomly entered one of the best of 3s versus T1 this past spring, going, too deep into the enemy jungle. We saw it when he was playing Graves at Worlds last year. Now we see it with Wukong, where he feels like he has to make the play or like be super aggressive, and it loses games a lot of the time. And you don't have to be hypey in that situation. Like they were in a very comfortable spot towards the end of that game number 2.
I mean, I still think that when you look at how the series is progressing, Peanut is playing bad, and Doran is just shitting the bed like, Doran does 75% of the time. You have to just read this series and be like, okay, this is what's going on. Like, these two players are playing poorly. Chovy is our fucking carry. Give him more agency. Like, give him the ability to do things. And also,
but you see, part of it is that Koreans culturally are very collectivistic, and so that is much more individualistic thinking about how to optimize your team. And it truly is not the way that a lot of Koreans will approach
said it before, but they've said it before. I was listening to the voice comms of Gen.G, and they were like talking about in the finals versus T1. They're like, yeah, I think that Doran's Gragas looks good today, so we'll play more of it. Like they're saying things like this, like they're mentally present within the series. And I just think that I think in general, this series is reminiscent of the Griffin versus IG series in Worlds 2019 from Chovy, where he just played tanks mid the entire time. And it's like, dude, at some point, you have to just start playing things that have the ability to really carry the game. And if you look at Chovy as a player, I think he's like, if you were to just judge every little bit of League of Legends, I think he's the best player in the world. If you were to look at like farming, like understanding the map, side laning, just laning in general in the early game, understanding team fights, overall mechanics, like map move. If you look at everything and you were to put a number on every single part of it, he would be the best player in the world overall. But like out of all of those categories, probably one of his weakest ones would be like initiating team fights. He's more of a carry player. Like he's not your initiator. He's the guy that goes in second and cleans everybody up. That's how I see Chovy as a player. That's why I think Ahri is so good for him, because he's able to play off other people. And the fact that they played champions that don't suit his strengths at all, I think it was rough. I think by game 3, you have to make an adaptation. I can understand going into the series with the mindset, but in general, I didn't think that the Korean teams adapted well to these series at all versus BLG. I thought T1 had the same problems, different problems, but a similar problem in general of not adapting to what's happening within the series live.
Yeah.
So Maokai Wukong banned in game 3. So that would have been Poppy Sejuani duty, so that Peanut then takes the initiation role, and then Chovy can play whatever. I guess you could also just flip the Annie and Ari, and that's fine too. But
I mean, it's really puzzling that we didn't, like, Poppy was good at this tournament, and it's puzzling that we didn't see more Poppy overall. And some of the games that we saw Poppy in were incredibly dominant. I would say one of the most dominant jungle performances of the entire tournament was Owner playing Poppy.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wouldn't even say any of this. So when I just looked at the draft, what Dgon was talking about, they let you first pick Vi in this game for Gen.G. Gen.G should just be playing Vi Ari. Like, that is what they should just go in. Like, you don't have to overthink it. They're the Vi Ari team. Peanut's best champion was Vi. It was banned versus him on like almost every game in LCK. So just Vi Ari it. That's like your comp, and you've tried playing the other comps and they're not working. It's so strange to me the way that they just hard committed on playing these champs that are like, these are the LPL team comps. They tried to out LPL. It's so weird. They're like, we're gonna just show up at everything and team fight you over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, Chovy played Annie 2 games during the regular season in spring, and he played 0 games of Annie during the playoffs. It's not like this was an Annie team. They're not an Annie team.
Yeah, they're not an Annie team. And how many games of Kindred has Peanut played? Probably 0. I can't remember one game. Like, I didn't watch every single game of Gen.G.
I can tell you he didn't play any in spring. In his life, I'll look.
No. I mean, in spring. Like, how many did he play? Probably 0.
0.
Which is like, you're opting into what BLG. You know, BLG is the Kindred team. They're the team that's drawing Kindred bans of 1, 2, 3 in LPL. So they're making the game so comfortable for BLG. Like, I saw these drafts and I'm like, holy fuck! Like, they're actually just gonna put Chovy on Annie and Peanut on Kindred, and that's going to be the final form of like, this is an elimination game. We're down 2-0. What are we doing?
Yeah, I think I
went out quietly.
We have to talk about, because Peanut's been around for so long now. He has played 42 Kindred games, which makes it his 6th most played champ, but none of them were this year prior to MSI. And also, a lot of this is legacy stuff. Remember that his
most
top 2
champion in the game.
He's played in his career are Lee Sin and Graves. Okay? Like, we don't want him playing those champs anymore. His 4th most played is Nidalee. All right? He's not that guy. He's not that guy. He's Poppy, Vi, Sejuani, Maokai Wukong guy now.
you look at all the champs that BLG has. The only one that I think I would be happy with if I was Gen.G, out of these 5 champions, Sion, Vi, Ari, Jinx, and Blitz, it's like they're all playing. BLG's all playing one of their best champions besides for Bin. Bin's playing the Sion here, when normally you're like willing to let him play a tank versus tank matchup. But outside of that, I mean, everything is looking fucking great for BLG. Like, On's favorite champion is Blitzcrank. He was one of the guys who was spamming Everfrost Blitzcrank, and you gave him another angle for that. So, I don't know, man. It was tough to watch. They didn't side lane at all. They're perma fighting. It's like, I don't know what happened, because I thought that Gen.G would at least beat BLG. I don't think BLG is that strong of a team. That's why it's weird that they just clapped fucking LCK so hard.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And, to carry that into the T1 series.
Oh, boy.
I feel like the BLG T1 series was, it was really disappointing. Like, it was another showcase in, I mean, the JDG series also. By the end, Faker's performance was not amazing. And we didn't see him show up. Like, game 2 was just kind of an unmitigated disaster for T1, because it showed all of their flaws in stark relief when it comes to high pressure matches. You get Zeus enormously ahead on the Kennen. He completely throws that lead by solo dying under a turret in really suspicious circumstances. Faker's in an extremely favorable matchup. Jace into Silas, which, this was calculated. Like, we're going to take the Maokai first. We understand that you might take the Silas. It's the same shit that happened in the finals. The difference is that Knight actually just clapped that matchup.
Yeah.
Right? Because the trade is this. And we've seen this since Worlds. This was the Worlds meta, right? You take the Maokai. Then teams figured out, well, we'll take the Sylas in response, and we're going to get the better version of the Maokai ultimate. But perhaps the trade back is perhaps we have some unfavorable matchups in the mid lane. And, you saw what happens when Knight is in that matchup. Instead, Faker is dying in that lane because he's trying to hold flash for too long on a gank.
I have a question for you, Monty. Is Faker washed?
No.
He's not washed? I think he's washed.
By what standard? He was still one of the best mid laners.
Do you think that he could ever be the best mid laner in the world again? I think no.
Okay. No. But I mean, if that makes him washed, like I don't think he has to be that guy on this team.
Look, I think he was the worst Asian mid laner at the tournament, like out of the LPL and LCK teams. I think he was worse than Dgon.
Yeah, but his job is different now than it was. And the question is, does he need to be the best mid laner in the world in order for T1 to win? And the answer is no.
With how they're playing, I think so. I think that you need.
Yes, but here's the thing: like the way the team strategy functions and the way the team works, Faker doesn't have to be that guy. The real problem is that in the regular season, when they're getting carried by their bot lane, when Zeus is dominating, they simply can't convert leads in these high pressure games into wins. Like Zeus had all of the resources on this Kennen, and he fucking throws the game. So where does the win come from at that point in time? Because you build this entire roster and you see such enormous success with it, and they were the best team in the world for a lot of the spring. And you have this style, just as Gen.G has this style, they have this style that you've said it many times, Dom, that they excel at diving the bot lane. They're the best team in the world at setting up these bot lane dives.
Then they got beaten by that same strategy.
Why the fuck are they getting owned by that same strategy this game?
They don't adapt to what's happening in the game. Like, there's so many ways you could adapt to getting bot dove. They got bot dove in every single fucking game in the series. Right? So what do you do at this point? Well, how about we pick a bot lane that can push. We pick a bot lane that can't be under turret like this. But they just kept on going. Zyrakan. They played one Nautilus game. They're just playing the same thing where they're playing constantly losing lanes that open them up to bot dives. That's thing number one. Number two, how about have your fucking jungler path bottom?
Yep. Yeah.
Your jungler can just path to defend the dive, and then you just 3v3, you show up, you look at the other jungler sees you, you stare at each other, you catch the wave, and then you go back to your jungle. Like, that's how you play. But they kept on pathing top over and over again. They keep on getting bot dove, and it's like they didn't believe that these bot dives were that strong. Like a Kha'Zix Lulu bot dive doesn't sound like it should one-shot you, right? Like, it doesn't sound like a super OP bot dive when you compare it to the other things that people were diving with before, like in previous years, right? When you compare it to a Leona bot dive, or like, whatever champion is OP at the time. Any of these, like a set bot dive, if set was meta. There's champions that are stronger at bot diving, but they were just getting 3v2 bot dive on cooldown, and they didn't do anything to adapt throughout the series. And if Keria is supposed to be the best player in the world, why are they not putting more agency into him to carry the game? It doesn't feel like they believe that he's the best player in the world. If you have the best player in the world on your team, then why don't you give him a matchup where he can actually have agency?
Yes. I mean, I think it was a huge problem, and it doesn't just boil down to draft. You have to, like, I think the thought process was, well, if we can get Zeus ahead, he's going to be a real threat. But the problem is that he never turned into that threat, and he doesn't convert leads into wins in the same way that he does in the regular season in LCK. And that's a huge problem, because when you rely on that as a very big carry threat for your team and it just vanishes in these scenarios, it throws your entire team out of whack.
Yeah, but I mean, the other thing is, when I'm looking at Faker's champion pool, I was surprised we didn't see one game of Gragas mid. Yep. Gragas was his pick, right? So where's the Gragas mid, the early pressure lane? There has to be some lane that's early aggro that beats Lulu. You can't convince me that Lulu blind it can push every single lane. There has to be some mage support, or you could go back to things like the Ashe, even if it's not as strong as it was before.
Yes.
Like, it's still a matchup where you can push the lane.
It's all fine.
There's ways that T1 could play around their style, but it's like, I feel like they're so concerned about what the meta is that they forget who they are, and they just try to play what the meta is. And like, the thing is, what's weird is that they got beat. They got beat by the same fucking champions that they thought were like, that T1 fans were saying were dog shit in the previous series. Like, when they played versus JDG, they're like, man, the Nautilus mid, the fucking Kindred, like these. Like,
that was a faker problem. I mean, if we're being honest, they should have won the JDG series in Game 5.
I mean, I don't know. I don't
was
think
a very winnable
that
game.
series. Sure, they could have won that game, but like then you could say they should have lost game 2 where they just won off one team fight. Like game 3 was similar where they won off one team fight. So I'm not sure if I'll say that they should have won the series. I think JDG is like a comprehensively better team than T1, which was surprising to me because I thought T1 was better than JDG.
Also, unlike any other team in the world, T1 has history like as a team, right? How many times do we remember last year being like Guma throwing a game, Guma throwing the lead? You have all the eggs in his basket, and then he chokes on the international stage. And you imagine Zeus during those times being like, please put it on me, I can do it. And here's evidence.
I refuse to say Guma is the best AD carry in the world until he learns Zeri. Zeri is such a fucking problem for this team.
It was huge. Yeah, that's what I said that yesterday on Summoning Insight, which is that the lack of Zeri play has been really detrimental. And Zeri coming back into the meta with MSI made things really, really difficult. Because I think that as the tournament went on, we saw that Jinx is just too good right now to let through. And that's what the Chinese teams knew by the finals. Like Jinx is just really broken because one pick turns into an entire team fight win. And that's what we saw. I mean, when for example, Gen.G was losing, Elk getting resets on the Jinx when Peanut kind of ended the game. And so the threat is absolutely enormous from this champion. But Zeri, has a similar cleanup mechanic that allows, not as good as Jinx, but it is a very punishing champion. Right, it's a very punishing champion. And so if you're not going to be aggressive with it, to Dom's point, and push it in the early game, you really make it very difficult for yourself. And it's just a matter of margin of error. Like if a Jinx or a Zeri is on the enemy team, your margin of error is lower, especially with very good AD carries who can clean up these fights.
Yeah.
But I agree. It's very weird that Gumayusi can't play this champion, right? It's very weird.
He just can't keep it in his pants. He's just every single time that he plays Zeri, you always see him wall ride in some precarious position, and it fucks the whole team. Like it's just such a consistent thing. So yeah, I mean, there's a huge bot lane problem. So maybe the carry picks are because of Gumayushi's picks. I guess you could make that argument, but still, I feel like there needs to be more agent. Like you got to show me more if you're the best player in the world. There's nothing that like I can't go through another split of us calling Carrier the best player in the world. I just can't. Like he has to prove something internationally before we go back to this type of narrative. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is this. T1 should be better than JDG and BLG right now. They kept the same fucking roster. That was the huge advantage. That was part of the reason why I picked T1. Like, I think that they just have an advantage over the other teams because they've stayed together. They know how each other play. Where BLG, like, if you look at these players, none of them had played together besides for, like, Bin and On and Suning fucking 2 years ago or some shit, which no one gives a fuck about, right? Like, who cares about that? This is 5 players put together on a lineup. Yagao came from JDG, Shun came from IG, Elk came from Ultra Prime, and On came from Suning, and obviously Bin came from RNG. This is not a team that's been together that like has a lot of existing synergy. JDG, you have 3 of the players that played together, but their 2 carry players are slotting in. So I feel like this is when T1 should have an advantage over these teams. They weren't showing me that they're like going to get better. I would assume that JDG's ceiling is higher than T1's ceiling. So the fact that T1's not better now, I think it's really concerning.
Yeah.
I think they need to make a roster change, to be honest.
And what'd you say?
I think they need to make a roster change, to be honest.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen because LCK teams don't make roster changes in the middle of the year, unfortunately. That would be an ideal thing to do, but that's just not a pattern that we've seen in LCK. Meanwhile, speaking of those roster changes, to project forward, it seems like LPL is getting even scarier. I mean, if Gala goes to LNG, I love LNG. Holy shit. Like that's a fucking banger team at that point in time. Maybe they need a support change as well. But I really like Zika as a weak side top laner, and LNG looks, on paper, that roster could be insanely strong.
It's official, by the way. Gala is on LNG.
Oh, he is on LNG. That's wonderful. Yes. I actually am really hyped about that just because I love that team. It's like one of my favorite teams to watch this year. But you look at the rest of the LPL, like OMG is overperforming. If Top ever gets their shit together, they could be really scary. We know teams like Weibo have been threats. So the 4 LPL seeds this year are going to be really terrifying. Like they're going to be really good at Worlds.
Yeah. I mean, I think JDG, like outside of a massive collapse, I think that they're just going to be the favorite coming into Worlds after how this tournament looked.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think they're going to get massively worse or anything as time goes on either.
Yeah. Don't forget Dom's crackheads too over at OMG, right? So
no, I like, dude. OMG, like, look, all I'm saying is OMG took more games off BLG in one series than the 2 LCK 1 and 2 seeds took in 2 series. That's all I'm saying. Like, OMG took 2 games in that series, brought them to game 5. They got 6-1 by that BLG team, so it is what it is. I mean, OMG kind of runs the LCK low key.
With the way that T1 and Gen.G played, if they're just going to play into their opponents, then I would actually take OMG because OMG is just going to style on them in their kind of ridiculous team fights. If you're just going to opt into all of them like Gen.G did, then why would Gen.G win that series?
Yeah. Takes away everything that made Gen.G Gen.G.
That'd be so nice for OMG because OMG is the team that like they want that fight so badly. They're like, we are gonna lose if you don't. Give us
this is the shit I was saying about the Gen.G G2 matchup was that I just thought it was doomed because I don't think you can not play TP top versus Gen.G if they're playing their style. I think it's just impossible to win versus them. With a Flash Ghost Darius in the top lane, like I just don't think you can beat Gen.G. But if Gen.G is gonna I mean, they played it out well against when their match against G2, but that if they are just going to opt into these fights when they face a Chinese team, then sure, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
It's like they didn't read the like 10-year scouting report on China. It's like these motherfuckers like fighting. Like I don't know if you know this, but they like to fight.
I mean, I obviously like. I don't care who wins. Like it's phenomenal to see a team as good as JDG, and I just want to watch the best possible League of Legends.
Yeah, I don't care who wins either. I mean, I just want to see if a Korean team wins, if they're the best. Yeah, I'm sure I'd be really happy.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, I guess why I'm disappointed is because it felt like we didn't get to see the best League of Legends because Gen.G just decided to play like shit. And that to me is the bummer because obviously I really love Gen.G's style, so to not even see it sucks.
Yeah. I mean, there's it's tough with Gen.G because they've done it so many times internationally and they have like a history of like choking that it's like it's very hard to buy in against Gen.G because I was with you.
It's hard to buy in against for T1 now. I mean, like how many times are we going to see this nonsense? Like why can't Zeus perform when he's on an international stage?
I don't think that Zeus was as big of a problem as the bot lane in the series versus BLG. I think Zeus, like, I mean, he did work on the Jax pick in game number 3 and then game 4. I mean, you can't just be so far behind every game bot lane because you get dove. There has to be something that you do. So I honestly don't think that like he choked or anything in this tournament. I mean, I think he played against just better top laners than probably what he's used to. Like, I think Bin at internationals, he just plays really fucking cocky. He plays with his dick out and you're going to have to like come and beat him.
I love that.
And
I love that.
I think it's really sick. I mean, if you look at Bin's trajectory, like in all of the internationals he's played, right? Like he's only played 3. He had the finals with Suning, the finals with BLG, and he won MSI last year with RNG. That's like a pretty fucking sick track record. And I mean, he just plays more. It looks like he's more comfortable than other top laners, I would say, at this tournament.
Yeah.
If I just want to throw this out there just because it feels like we're harder on T1 because they lost to BLG than JDG. If they got knocked out just by JDG and say it was like a best of 1 elimination match, right, in the semifinals, are we as hard on T1 because they didn't win? Because that was a much better match for them.
Oh, of course. Like if that's the thing about this format is it really shows you how good the teams are. And this is a conversation that I wanted to have on this episode, so we'll lead into this afterwards. But if they had just played against JDG and they lost 3-2, there would be like it would be like, damn, bro, that was a good fucking best of 5. JDG was just slightly better. But the fact that they lost to BLG, they should have beat BLG. They should be better than BLG. I'm like, I know that I'm fucking memeing it on Twitter and stuff, and I'm like, holy shit, how dog shit is the LCK? I actually think T1 is a better team than BLG. They just they're in their own heads and they're just in their own way with how they're approaching the game. So this is the conversation I wanted to have. How much does this MSI tournament matter? Because I think this matters significantly more than previous MSIs. Before, you'd get one best of 5 versus a good team, where now you have like T1 played 4, right? They played Or no, they played 3. They played they played 4. Wait, did they play 4? No, 3. They played 3 good best of 5s, right? So they play against JDG, BLG, and Gen.G. Compared to like before, where you would just play 1 best of 5, China versus Korea, and whoever won MSI outside of 2019. I don't know. I think that this tournament, it's not worth as much as the Worlds, but I think it's infinitely worth more than previous MSIs.
Yeah. I mean, I think it just gives more definitive answers, which is the purpose of a format, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead and get into our next topic for the day, which is keep or kick this MSI format. Let's get into it. Well,
if you say kick, you should get fucking kicked. I agree. I will kick you off the show if either of you say kick. Like, you're getting kicked.
No, obviously it's keep. Like, this has been one of the best tournament formats in League of Legends history. The bar was extremely low, to be fair. The bar was extremely low because Riot is an absolute abomination when it comes to making tournament formats. And even this one, we have to admit, does suck, because it doesn't actually have the top 8 teams in the world there. You know, a sane tournament format, if you are testing to find the best teams, would have preliminary events that weed out all of the bad teams, like all of the minor.
No, they already had the best 8 teams in the world. It was just called LPL playoffs. That's where they. So that tournament already existed. This is a different thing. That's like a World Cup or something. I told you I was going to be like this. I mean,
the word.
It's okay. But yeah, obviously, like, it would be really fun to see. The funny thing is, like, now we really want Rift Rivals back just so we can see more LPL versus LCK games, because that would actually be just an absolute banger tournament.
Hey, wait. Just wait a second. You used the World Cup. Morocco, right? Was Morocco made it to the semifinals?
The World Cup is an absolute travesty of a format.
Yeah, all I'm saying is T1 might need to import some Moroccan players with how things are looking over there. Korea is finished.
The World Cup is a war crime against formats. Okay, so don't start with the World Cup.
It's great for sales, and North America needs some of those, you know?
I mean, most formats are pretty shit. I mean, even if you look at like the NBA playoffs, like, I think it's such a shit format to like be like East and West, and then you don't actually get to see like the best teams necessarily compete. Like, I mean, the finals could just be worse than the Western Conference finals or something, or maybe even the Western Conference semifinals. It's just kind of sucks.
But that's right. We've got the 2 Denver guys here against the Miami guy here. Well, I guess Miami hasn't made it in yet, but
why are you guys Denver guys?
Well, Dgon, why are you in Colorado?
I thought you were from Virginia.
No, I spent like 8 years there of like my childhood. So like, John Elway, Denver Broncos. Like, I have less affinity with.
God damn, you're old, John Elway. Jesus.
Yeah, man. John Elway, Joe Sakic, Patrick Waugh, Ray Bork.
That was a great time to be a Colorado sports fans in the late 90s. Mid to late 90s was great.
Dante Bichette?
No, except for the Rockies, and also
the Rockies sucked.
the Avs and the Broncos were.
Bro, it's a great time to be a Florida sports fan right now. How things are going. Panthers are 3-0.
I know, dude.
Yeah,
go FlyQuest.
Yeah, go FlyQuest. For those guys who don't know, the same owners of the Panthers.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you there, Monty, on the Morocco upset and all that stuff. But keep going about some of the things. Oh, the other thing that could have been better.
Korea is really dog shit. I remember your point. So what were you saying?
Yeah, see, Dom, here's the new argument. Here's the new argument for you.
Okay.
I'm preparing you to have more offensive opinions. Boy. Here we go. The MSI format proved that the LPL teams are better, which is why we should implement it for Worlds, because otherwise we wouldn't have had those shitty 3 LCK teams in the top 4 at Worlds.
Exactly.
Had there been a true double limb format. There you go.
Exactly. Let's host it in a fucking bubble so the Asian teams or the Chinese teams don't get fucking COVID again.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, that was a huge part of Worlds last year. We talked about it on this show, but of course it wasn't a narrative anywhere else. But the fact that those Chinese teams had garbage Chinese like COVID vaccines and then all got COVID at Worlds was definitely one of the reasons why they underperformed at Worlds.
Like EDG, they played their best of 5 versus DRX, the eventual champions. It went to all 5 games, and Flandre wasn't in the same. He wasn't on stage, man. He's isolated in a different location. Like, that's got to be fucked up being on a team. I've never experienced that as a player.
Look at the player cams too. Like, half the Chinese players looked like
they were dying.
They looked terrible. They look terrible in those player cams. I felt really bad for them. But yeah, conveniently, that narrative got swept under the rug because, obviously Riot's not going to be like, yeah, we got all our players.
Yeah.
They covered it up, but they covered it up with the Korean drama World Finals. Like, that was
also, probably not a good look for them when China's going through all of their insane lockdowns at the time to be like, hey, these Chinese players have COVID.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, probably was a big part of the LPL performance at Worlds last year.
It's okay. It's still, no matter what way you cut it, it's still 4 out of the 5 last internationals. Since 2021, it's been some LPL dominance.
It has. I guess the only big thing would be, how do you get the seeding? So one of the big issues that we had with the format was like our knockout stage draw, right? Where it's all basically domestic battles.
This happens, whatever.
No, I think that you do change the seeding. I think until we see something more from Western teams, the LPL and LCK 2 seeds should just be seeded above the LPL or the LEC and LCS 1 seeds. Yeah. Those are just not actual 1 seeds. Like, we saw T1 shit on the 1 seed Mad Lions, and then we saw like BLG played Cloud9, right? Yeah, they 3-0'd them. We saw them 3-0. Like, it wasn't even close. The 2 seeds versus the 1 seeds of LCS and LEC. So you just have to seed. If you want a better format, you need to seed the LPL teams and the LCK teams higher. They're just the best 4 teams at the tournament.
Like, you get to the knockout stage and you have just 4 pots, and so it's pot 1 is 1, 2. Pot 2.
Well, I think what you do is you put Korea number 1 and China number 2 on the same side of the bracket, and then China number 1 and Korea number 2 on the other side of the bracket.
Yep. And then you just slot in the other.
That way in the semis you actually just can't have a Asian domestic matchup.
Yeah. It's like, who cares? Cloud9 Golden Guardians and Mad Lions G2, they ended up on the same side of the bracket. Who cares? Basically, right? That's what we're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I look, the format's still good. It was a bit of an unfortunate draw, but I think we arrived at the right place. I wish that some of the losers bracket matches has been more competitive, and I feel like we only got one really good best of 5, which was JDG versus T1. But otherwise, you feel like the right team won at the end of the day.
Yep.
And we did get a surprise in BLG making it to the second place. So it didn't even take away the fact that it was, I guess, more boring, more predictable. It wasn't. BLG was the lesser known, lesser predicted team to make it out against Gen.G and T1. I remember Zale saying after the Gen.G win, it's like, I expect Gen.G to just blast BLG, and that one didn't work out. And Zale's rarely wrong on those kind of things.
Besides for when he predicts every NA team to do well internationally.
Yeah, we don't count those. Count those.
All right. Cool. Besides for when he's wrong, he's always right.
There you go. Thanks, man. You're giving away the tricks of my hosting. All right, so we'll keep this MSI format for sure. A little bit of tweaks there, but I guess to close it out here, what is the legacy of this MSI product for you, Dom?
The legacy of this tournament, or just in general?
This tournament.
I mean, I think that this is just the best format we've ever had in an international tournament before. So this is like the beginning of a new era of hopefully good MSIs, because I think MSI before, I used to always say this, I didn't give a fuck about MSI. I hated MSI. It was the only tournament, if you know how I am with this type of stuff, I don't miss LPL playoffs. I don't miss any regular season or playoff games in LEC or LCS unless I have no power or something. I don't miss any of those matches. MSI last year, I took off half the tournament, because it was at a dog shit time zone. It was 3 a.m.
You didn't want to watch 10 games of Australia getting smashed?
Yeah, I mean, I would just take those days off. So now MSI, it feels like another good international tournament. Yep. It feels like a Worlds to me.
You get the appropriate number of games of the minor regions. At least some of them are going to be mildly competitive when they face each other. It's an elimination match, so there's stakes instead of 06 minor region, playing a few more games and already being eliminated. Yeah, it feels good.
I just hope that they get over their like double limb phobia for Worlds, which they won't. But I just think in general, like it's one of those things where maybe the result scared people away, where they're like, oh shit, BLG versus JDG ended up being the final, and that attracted less viewers than JDG T1 did in like the upper bracket finals. Maybe that fucks with people, but I think in general, this is like the format that you want to have.
I mean, that final match could happen in single elimination, though, and it would be the same viewership result. So it's not really a good indication, I don't think.
Yeah, you just have to. If anything, people just have associate the final with like it needs to have the most viewership on the final.
Right, but think about it this way: if T1 had just been eliminated from JDG, you would have had less viewership because you wouldn't have had another T1 game.
Yeah.
So if anything, it should provide insulation, even if fan favorites lose, because at least you get another best of 5 viewership out of them.
And the main thing that you get out of this tournament, which we haven't had in Worlds ever, is you get an accurate ranking of 1, 2, 3, 4. Like the best team was clearly JDG, the second best team was clearly BLG, the third best team was clearly T1, the fourth best team was clearly Gen.G. Yep. That's it. That's like the main thing that you want. Like obviously you're gonna have people complain about like, oh, G2, like we didn't get to see any NA versus EU. Whatever, man. Like that's what we don't get. It's like,
I mean, if that's your concern, guys, I don't think you should be watching our content. This is elitist content.
100%.
It's elitist content, and then I'm here.
There's Hotline League for the rest of you.
I think
Snitch Line League. Me when I have to choose between the fucking Reddit mods and Travis Gafford. Oh my god, it was a travesty.
A travesty?
A travesty.
Like that one?
Very good.
Okay. Also, now since we're just flaming random people, where the fuck is the light? Where's the light to flame me in YouTube comments? I've been looking for this motherfucker.
Dude, I love his fucking troll comments. They're the best.
Yeah, where's his?
He's my favorite YouTube comment troll.
Again. Where is he, man? Where is he?
You know, Tom. You're just coping so hard. Eventually, Gen.G's gonna come through, and the light is gonna be right.
He was always right.
It's just setting you up for the inevitable fall, right? Your hubris is building. It will make the fall more glorious in the end.
True.
All right, let's close it out here with our last segment of the day. It's the certified banger of the week. What else would it be? We actually alluded to it earlier. It's T1 versus JDG. Best of 5, great series, went the distance. If T1 would have lost there, we wouldn't have been as upset, but instead they did. Either way, go back, watch it. It had a ton in it here, Monty.
Yeah, I think also that part of the story that we've talked about of the meta of this tournament was that the Jinx ended up being, much stronger, especially as time went on. And I think that was very evident over the course of this series. And I also think that for whatever reason, T1 and Gen.G, as they kind of opted into this more LPL style, because remember, LPL was the region that was using more Nidalee and more Kindred during the regular split compared to LCK. But it almost felt like T1 didn't really appreciate or understand, and Gen.G as well, the kind of team comps that you can play around and into these picks. When we look at playing Kindred, like in game 1 of this series for Owner, it's very difficult to play a Kindred when you can get ulted off your ult by a Gragas, when you can get chain CC'd by Wukong and Annie. Like, how do you play Kindred in this composition? Whereas if you look at some of the Kindred comps like that Billy was running, you're playing Kindred into like Maokai, Kennen, things that are not going to punch you out necessarily of your ultimate, that give you a lot more freedom to get your ult down and play the game. So it felt like the versatility and team comp understanding was just better for Billy and JDG. As the Korean teams were trying to integrate these new picks, the synergy wasn't necessarily always there, I felt.
Yeah, I think that this series in general gave us the best team fight setups that we've seen. Like, it was really, really insane to just see all these teams play around Vision, the way that like 369 would drop multiple waves and he would just buy a red sweeper, like E into a bush and just fucking stand there. I thought that was really sick. And just the angles that JDG would come from were really good. I mean, they would have multiple creative angles where they would have one person approach from a ramp, one person approach over a dragon wall. You'd have 369 like the line bush on the side of mid, and Ruler would be like flanking as an AD carry, where normally you see an AD carry flank and it doesn't make any sense. But I thought that the setups were really insane. I mean, for both teams in general, like the fights that T1 won in games 2 and game 3, the game defining fights were just really well played team fights. So it was a very interesting clash of styles there. I also thought it showed JDG's resilience. Like losing 2 games the way they lost game 2 and game 3, it's pretty hard to come back from that. Where you just lose one fight, your neck just explodes. 2 games in a row, you're like, what the fuck, man? Like this is just because I mean, game 2 and game 3, they felt like JDG won fights throughout the game. It looked like they were in advantageous positions at points. So I just thought that this was definitely the series of the tournament. And T1 I thought they adapted poorly in games 4 and game 5. I think going back to the Kindred was a really big mistake. Game 1, it didn't work out, and the fact they went back to the same type of comp.
Shout out to 0-8 Malphite for this tournament, by the way.
Yeah, the Malphite
was a
good
mega trap pick at this event.
But also, like, why would you want to play Malphite in this game when you look at it? I mean, I guess they have a mobile, they have Annie and Aphelios that are mobile, but you don't want
on Aphelios. It's tunneling on Aphelios. That's all it is.
But you don't want to be playing Malphite into a Gragas in lane. That is really tough for you. So or Scion or like any of the picks top lane that 369 would default to. So I think that was weird. And just in general, I think that there's this idea of playing like overly defensive comp. So we've seen from T1 now, we saw a similar thing when they were in a pressured game 5 versus RNG in spring of MSI 2022, where they went for that like Jin Yumi, comp, which I just think is
God. Please don't remind me about that.
But it's the same type of mentality. That's why I bring it up, is I feel like they go into this like mentality where they're like, all right, enemy team has a lot of engage, so we'll draft like things that are kind of hard to engage into. We got a Tom Kench, we've got a Kindred, but game doesn't really work like that. Like a Kindred ult doesn't matter if you're at 100 HP inside your Kindred ult and they're all full life. So
yeah. And they're all standing in there getting healed because you're the last person alive on your team. Like,
yeah,
I actually kind of low-key hate Kindred, but I hate carry. I think I just hate. I hate carry jungle. I hate Kha'Zix. I hate Nidalee. I hate Kindred.
Graves?
Graves is okay. Graves is okay. Graves is okay. Graves is okay. I like Graves, but
I don't like Graves at all.
But I just feel like the burden of execution on a lot of these champions is just not worth. It's not worth it. You really are walking a very fine line, and there's no margin for error a lot of the time. I think they can be powerful situationally within the right compositions, but it just felt like both T1 and Gen.G were picking these because they felt they were meta and not because they actually had a firm plan in place of what kind of composition to play with them and what kind of composition they were playing into.
Yep.
All right. Well, there you have it. A lot of different things to look at when you watch this banger of the week and banger of the tournament, to be honest.
Yeah, it was still a good series. I mean, I think it was still really entertaining to watch overall, and I'm sad we didn't get more of these within the event.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully it gets fixed. Next format with the seeding of the top teams that make it to the knockout phase.
Yeah, or if Korea could just like win a best of 5 versus LPL over the course of an entire tournament, you could get better matchups later on as well.
There it is. Spoken like a true T1 like... fan. There it is. If only they could win. Chris, what was it? I saw Chris T1ian Rivera. They put the T in the T1.
I sympathize with Dom. The T1 fans are fucking horrible. I hate them too.
Yeah. What about their owner?
All right.
Thank you very much, everyone. I did kind of hate their jungler. The later this tournament went on, especially for just not paying attention to bot lane, as we discussed in the series versus BLG. But Joe Marsh, to be clear, is not the owner of T1. And
yeah,
I've said this
CEO,
before.
I guess.
Yeah, Joe Marsh, I believe his heart is in the right place. He's just annoying. Like it's one of those things where, has he committed any actual crimes? No, I actually think he's probably pretty good for the esports space, and I think that he does have good ideas about how to run the LCK, and he does really care about the team. His crime is just being annoying. It's like Russell Wilson. Did Russell Wilson do anything wrong? He visits Children's Hospital all the time. He's just weird and annoying, so it's easy to make fun of him.
Yeah,
let's ride. Gosh, again, Patrick Starr just will forever be. Did you see the Chargers
yeah, it was so funny
anime thing, and they had it was Russell and Patrick Starr. That was so good. That was so good. That one and the Tennessee Titans one was really good as well. Where they just went on like Broadway on the street and we're like, hey, what's this logo? And it was like people completely getting it wrong and then just, basically flashing the game. It was like, that's the Cowboys, definitely the Cowboys. And it was like the Colts. Oh, man. All right. That does it here from us. I guess we'll see what happens next week with the LCS player walkout. Again, heard the voting is being taken a little bit more seriously by the players, and they kind of feel like
I just wonder what they're trying to accomplish, but we're going to do 4 Horsemen with Phil Aram in a few minutes and on this channel. And so we can find out together.
Yeah, what he's going to say. He's going to say this whole list of demands is what we're trying to accomplish.
I'm trying to figure out what is the most important thing. I do, to a certain degree, feel that Riot should set a discretionary revenue sharing budget. And I think $300,000 is reasonable, because that basically, if you pay, if you have like 5 players and a coach each making $50,000 and they don't have to live in LA, that feels reasonable to me. And I think that the problem is that the teams don't have access. Like, basically they're having to choose between paying their LCS teams and paying their challenger teams right now. Whereas if there is this budget set aside that's purely for talent development, then they could choose to use that budget or not. You know what I mean? But I think that would be helpful. And I think it's a good way to prop up the system.
Yeah.
Just want to say that when I was a pro player with 5 times the fucking viewership of LCS now, back in like 2015, I was making $50K a year to play in 27. Like, there was in season 4, I made 45, played in 27 best of ones per split plus playoffs. So
yeah, but and Riot pocketed all the money from all the skins that you played when the fans bought the skins because IWillDominate was playing them. And then Mark Merrill tells you that you should be grateful to have a job because he made a video game for you.
Yeah,
and
I like that guy.
That guy's real cool. So good guy, Mark
Merrill. We shouted out everyone today. Holy shit. Joe, Mark, Travis, who else? Owner.
Corporate leaders not being deeply weird challenge. Impossible.
Aren't you the leader of Last Free Nation? Does that make you a corporate leader now?
I guess I'd probably consider deeply weird as well. So there you go.
Impossible. I was just making sure we got that. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Power Spike. Make sure to subscribe over at Last Free Nation on our YouTube channel, on our TikTok. Our editors have been killing it. Get you all the content that you need. Let's see, 4 Horsemen will be right in here in just a little bit. So if you're watching live, make sure to watch that. If you do miss it live, go watch it afterwards. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you guys next time for more Power Spike. See ya.